I grew up a little bit in Alberta, Fort McMurray. My best memories of my childhood were when I was on the trap line with my grandmother, and we would follow her to check her traps. And then we would help to like carry some of the hides and pelts. We also helped to bead. She beaded roses. It was an old style. It also resembled our heritage and our culture. I remember like listening to her talk, and she would speak to us in Nahawan and in English that's translated as Cree. That's like my best memory of my childhood. I wish I had more, but sadly I don't. My mother and my stepfather drank, and they drank often. And myself and my brother, had woken up one morning, like there was a party the night before, and we thought they were sleeping, but they were passed out. And we were little children, we were innocent beings. We didn't know what we were getting into. But I was so hungry and thirsty that I seen a can on the coffee table, and then I just drank it. And that was my first experience with drinking alcohol. It's so vivid for me because, on my own healing journey, I've had to go back into my childhood. And when I reached, that part of my reflection and healing, I shed a lot of tears for that little girl. I didn't have someone safe to go to. I didn't have anybody to watch over like my well-being and say, no, you shouldn't be, drinking that. I originally blamed like my biological mom like for a lot of different things until I grew to understand what alcoholism and colonialism and residential schools, what all of that meant. And that for that time, she had coped as best she could. I was apprehended from my biological family when I was 4 years old and didn't get to grow up with like family dynamics. I was shipped from home to home to home to home. Everything that normal families teach their children, I didn't get to learn. When I was 14, I had a boyfriend, and he invited me to a party, and I blacked out. But when I came to, my neighbor from a few doors down was on top of me. He had raped me because I wasn't in any condition to consent at all. I just couldn't believe that had happened, and where was my boyfriend, and why didn't he protect me? Why didn't he help me? I thought it was my fault, and I felt ashamed. And a friend of mine, I told her what happened, and she says, well, you can go to Vancouver and look for this guy. I felt I had no other options. I went down to Main and Hastings. I knew nothing, absolutely nothing about the downtown east side. I was like a 14-year-old kid. And then I got befriended by a couple. They took me to their place. So it was only a matter of maybe a week and a half or 2 weeks. And eventually they introduced me to drugs. And I had grown up, being familiar with alcohol and drugs. And I wanted to be a part of. That was the biggest thing. I wanted to be a part of, a sense of belonging. And that's when my addiction to substances began. So it evolved from there. I stayed, in the downtown east side, surviving and everything until I became pregnant with my son my family doctor was part of my journey. He informed me that the Ministry on Children and Families had flagged me and tagged my file so that if I had given birth, that the child would be removed immediately from my care. And I was scared. I wanted an opportunity to be a parent, and I didn't want that to be taken away from me. I wanted to have a chance to learn how to take care of myself so that I could learn to take care of my baby. And so I had asked the social workers from when I was in care to go to bat for me. And I told them, I said, I need this chance to prove myself. I need a chance to be a parent. If this baby is taken away from me, I'm going to die. And so they gave me a doula and an outreach support worker. And, you know, it was really like the best feeling in the world. So that was the beginning of like my sobriety. I was afraid, but I also, like, for the first time in my life, I was brutally honest with myself, like in doing the work. You know, I needed to learn and to know and to grow, you know, into a young woman. I was like in my first year of sobriety, and a friend had told me about a sweat, and his sweat lodge was based on compassion. I went to that lodge, and then I kept going. Like every weekend I would go, and I would bring my son with me. And then after about a few months, I got invited to go to a Sundance with my son. When we went to the Sundance, something changed within me. I knew that was the place for healing. And for the first time in my life, I actually felt like I truly, genuinely, in my spirit, I can't fully describe it, that I belong. I said, son, this is going to be how we're going to live our life. This is going to be how we're going to heal. He could heal and be exposed to our culture and have all of those beautiful ways. I knew that I was going to be a Sundancer one day, and I've Sundanced every year since. Culture was one of the biggest things that was missing in my life, and it's changed my direction. It's saved my life. I believe that change is possible as long as you're willing to do the work. And the most important thing is to hang on. What I did when I was really struggling to stay sober was I envisioned that I had like a rope hanging, like that I was hanging on to that, and then I was hanging on for my life, right? Don't let go. That's all I kept saying to myself was, don't let go. You matter. You're important. You're a beautiful Indigenous woman. Reach out, connect with people, learn how to connect with your spirit. Don't give up.